Snow drifted along the edges of Manhattan as Christmas lights glittered from every balcony, but inside a small third-floor apartment, Evelyn Marlowe stood alone beside a table she had carefully set for two. A roast chicken waited beside two wine glasses, one of them still empty. She kept checking the clock, telling herself maybe traffic was bad, maybe her husband was simply running late. But deep down, something in her chest already knew the truth. Her phone buzzed. A FaceTime request from Grant. She forced a smile and answered, ready to say, "Merry Christmas." Instead, the image that filled her screen nearly made her drop the phone. Grant wasn't in his office. Behind him were warm lights, golden champagne flutes, and a Beverly Hills view she'd never seen before. Then a woman's hand slid over his shoulder. That manicured hand, those glittering rings. A moment later, Cambria Rhodes stepped fully into the frame, glamorous, smug, shimmering in a sequined gown, as if mocking Evelyn's simple red sweater. "Oh," Cambria said sweetly, "you didn't tell her yet?" Grant closed his eyes, exhaling like someone exhausted or guilty. "Evelyn," he whispered, "I'm not coming home tonight." The roast chicken went cold. The candles flickered. Evelyn stared at the screen as if it were a hallucination. "It's Christmas, Grant," she managed to say. "Where are you?" He shifted uncomfortably. Cambria grinned and looped her arm through his. "He's with me. Has been for a while." A sharp pain rose in Evelyn's stomach, too sudden, too real. She clutched the counter to stay standing. Grant didn't even notice. "I think we should end things," he continued. "This marriage isn't working." Her throat closed. She wanted to scream that she was pregnant, that she needed him, that this wasn't the man she married. But when she inhaled, the pain spread upward, tightening her entire body. "Grant, Cambria leaned in toward the camera. "He chose me tonight. You should accept that." The call ended. Evelyn stood in silence as the snow kept falling outside. The pain sharpened again, dropping her to her knees. She reached for her phone, her voice barely a whisper. "Noah. Please. Help." The world blurred as everything went dark. Evelyn woke to the blinding white of hospital lights and the distant echo of monitors beeping in steady rhythm. Her body felt heavy, as if her bones were filled with sorrow rather than blood. When she tried to sit up, a firm but gentle hand pressed her shoulder. "Don't move too fast," Dr. Noah Sterling said, his voice low and steady, the same voice that had calmed 100 anxious patients. His eyes softened when they met hers. "You fainted in your apartment. You're dehydrated, exhausted, and, Evelyn, you're under a lot of emotional stress." She looked away, blinking against the sting in her eyes. "I'm fine. Her breath trembled. The truth pressed at her throat again. Noah gently placed a chart at the foot of the bed. "You're not fine, and you don't have to pretend for me." For a moment, Evelyn thought she could handle this alone, like she always had. But the memory of Grant's voice, cold, distant, choosing Cambria over her on Christmas, poured through her like ice water. "I didn't even get to tell him," she whispered. "I was supposed to tell him tonight." Noah's expression shifted, restrained but unmistakably protective. "Tell him what?" Evelyn hesitated, gripping the blanket. She had rehearsed the sentence for weeks. She imagined Grant smiling, lifting her off the floor, planning names and building a nursery. She imagined a future that, in one video call, shattered into dust. "I'm pregnant, Noah." Silence. Not judgment, not shock, just a deep, steady breath as he tried to absorb the weight of what she'd been carrying alone. "And he doesn't know?" Noah asked quietly. She shook her head. "He left before I could say it. He said he wanted a divorce." Noah sat beside her bed, the soft hum of machines filling the space between them. "Evelyn, you don't deserve what he did. None of this is your fault. And one of or so. I keep thinking maybe, if I'd been better," she murmured, "or prettier, or more exciting, maybe he wouldn't have left." Noah leaned forward, jaw tight. "Don't do that. A man who walks out on his wife on Christmas doesn't leave because she wasn't enough. He leaves because he isn't enough." Evelyn swallowed hard, her eyes brimming again. "I don't know how to do this alone." "You won't be alone," Noah said. "Not while I'm here." End quote. The words settled softly over her, comforting, but too generous for someone who felt broken. Before she could respond, the door opened and a nurse stepped inside with paperwork. "Mrs. Marlowe," the nurse said, unaware of the fresh wound the name now carried. "We'll need your signature for the discharge. but the doctor recommends you stay overnight." "I want to go home," Evelyn whispered quickly. "I can't be here. Not tonight." Noah hesitated, then nodded. "If you're leaving, I'm not letting you go home alone. I'll drive you." She didn't argue. She didn't have the strength. Hours later, Noah helped her into his car, the warmth of the heater misting the windows as snow continued falling across Manhattan. Evelyn stared out at the streets, glowing with Christmas decorations, each light a reminder of the evening she had imagined, and the one she got instead. Noah glanced at her, wanting to say more, but respecting the silence. "Evelyn," he said gently, "whatever happens next, you're stronger than you think." She didn't feel strong at all. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the betrayal, beneath the fear, something small and steady flickered. Hope. The next morning, Evelyn woke in her dim apartment, her head heavy against the flat pillow she hadn't bothered to replace in years. Snowlight filtered through the thin curtains, casting pale streaks across the room. The clock read 9:12 a.m. But it felt like time had stopped the moment. Grant said, "I'm not coming home tonight." Her body ached in places she didn't know could hurt: her chest, her stomach, her throat. She placed a hand gently over her abdomen, where a tiny heartbeat she had only recently heard on an ultrasound now felt like both a miracle and a terrifying responsibility. For the first time, she whispered to the quiet room, "I'll protect you, I promise." But a knock at the door shattered the fragile stillness. When she opened it, Grant stood in the hallway, unshaven, still wearing the same button-down from last night, except now his collar was wrinkled and Cambria's perfume lingered faintly on him. His eyes darted past her, avoiding contact, avoiding guilt. "We should talk," he muttered. Evelyn stepped aside without a word. She didn't trust her voice, not when it trembled every time she inhaled. Grant walked in like a man inspecting a hotel room he planned to leave in minutes. No apology, no remorse. "I talked to Cambria last night," he began, already blaming someone else for his choice. "She thinks it's best if we finalize things immediately." Evelyn's breath hitched. "Finalize what?" "The divorce." He said it as if it were a simple errand, like picking up dry cleaning. Her legs weakened, but she stayed upright, her fingers curling into her palms. "Grant, we've been married 8 years. And for 5 of those, we've been unhappy," he snapped. "We're not good together. You're always working late, you never want to travel, and honestly, I feel like I've outgrown." Evelyn lifted a hand, stopping him. "Please. Just give me a moment." Grant rolled his eyes. "Evelyn, don't make this dramatic. People divorce all the time." She felt dizzy again, the room spinning like it had last night before she collapsed, but this time, she steadied herself. She needed clarity. Not for him, for her. Was she worth it? Evelyn asked softly. "Leaving our marriage on Christmas, was she worth that?" Grant's jaw tightened. "Cambria makes me feel alive. She pushes me. She's exciting. Something you stopped being a long time ago." The words sliced through her, but she refused to let him see her break. He reached into his coat and pulled out a stack of documents. "I already printed everything. Just sign, and we'll make this clean." Clean. The betrayal was still fresh, and he wanted clean. "If you want some visitors." Evelyn looked down at the papers, her name typed beside his. The marriage she fought to protect turned into sterile paragraphs and legal boxes. Her hand trembled as she picked up a pen. She imagined their wedding day, the vows, the ring he slid onto her finger. She imagined telling him about the baby, imagining a future he had chosen to destroy. She signed anyway. Grant snatched the papers back too quickly, as if afraid she'd change her mind. "Good," he said. "This is the right thing." "This Evan? For you, maybe," she thought. When he reached the door, Grant paused. "I hope there's no hard feelings." Hard feelings? He had no idea. The door clicked shut, and Evelyn finally let herself collapse to the floor, both hands around her stomach. "You have me," she whispered to her unborn child. "Even if he doesn't want us, you have me." And for the first time, she believed it. The days that followed unfolded in a blur, quiet, colorless, and strangely weightless, as if Evelyn were moving underwater. The signed divorce papers sat on her kitchen table like a gravestone marking the end of the life she thought she was building. Each morning, she would glance at them, half expecting them to vanish, half wishing she had never seen them at all. But the reality remained. Grant had made his choice. 3 days after Christmas, Evelyn returned to work at the hospital. The hallways were still decorated with silver garlands, nurses exchanging leftover cookies, and sharing stories about family gatherings. She forced a smile each time someone greeted her, but the smile never reached her eyes. At her locker, she rested a hand on her belly again, whispering to the little life inside her, "We'll get through this." Saying the words out loud made them feel painfully fragile, but still real enough to cling to. Before she could change into her scrubs, a familiar voice called her name. "Evelyn?" She turned to find Dr. Noah Sterling standing near the doorway, holding a stack of charts. His concern was immediate, written plainly across his face. "You shouldn't be back this soon," he said. "You need rest." Emotional stress affects pregnancy more than most people understand. "I can't stay home," she replied quietly. "If I sit alone with my thoughts any longer, I'll fall apart." "If you can't river." Noah stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Have you told Grant? He has a right to know." Evelyn stiffened. "He chose to walk away. I'm not dragging him back into this. I won't beg him to care. He might feel differently if he knew." "No." She cut in gently but firmly. "I won't give him another chance to hurt me." Something shifted in Noah's eyes. Not disagreement, respect. He nodded, accepting her decision even if it worried him. By noon, Evelyn pushed herself through her rounds, checking charts, adjusting medications, comforting anxious families. But the strain showed. She moved slower, breathed heavier. A nurse finally urged her to take a break, and Evelyn slipped into an empty supply room to rest. She barely had time to close her eyes when two young nurses passed by outside, whispering, "Did you hear? Grant Marlowe is in L.A., with Cambria Roads again. They posted more photos last night." "Wow, his poor wife." End quote. "Ex-wife," the other corrected. "Apparently she signed everything already." Evelyn pressed a hand over her mouth. Even the hospital walls seemed to echo with her humiliation. That evening, when her shift ended, she found Noah waiting for her near the elevators. "I'm driving you home," he said simply. "You look pale." Too tired to protest, she followed him outside. Snow had started falling again, blanketing Manhattan in soft white. Noah opened the passenger door for her, his movements gentle, steady, everything her life no longer was. During the ride, Evelyn stared out at the glowing skyline. "Noah," she said quietly, "I don't think I can stay here. Everywhere I go, I see him. I hear people talking. I feel trapped." "Then leave," Noah replied. "Start over somewhere new, somewhere peaceful." She swallowed. "Where would I even go?" "Anywhere you choose. You don't have to decide tonight. But you deserve a place where healing is possible." Healing. The word felt both impossible and desperately needed. When they reached her apartment, Noah didn't let her exit until he added softly, "You're not alone in this, Evelyn. Not anymore." For the first time in days, she allowed herself to believe he meant it. Winter dragged on with a heaviness Evelyn felt in her bones. She worked her shifts, kept her head down, and avoided any conversations that even hinted at Grant's name. The hospital became both refuge and reminder. Every joyful family, every newborn cry, every father pacing nervously in the hallways, stabbed at the wound she tried to hide beneath her uniform. By the end of February, her belly had begun to show. She wore loose sweaters and lab coats, hoping no one would notice, but whispers still floated behind her. People had opinions about her divorce, about Grant's glamorous new relationship, about her sudden quietness. Everyone always did. One evening, after an exhausting shift, Evelyn finally told her supervisor she needed a leave of absence. She didn't explain why. She didn't need pity or questions. She simply needed space to breathe. She retreated to a tiny rental apartment in Queens, old hardwood floors, a flickering heater, and rent cheap enough to manage alone. It wasn't much, but it was hers, and for the first time since Grant left, silence felt like something she could survive. Months passed. Spring warmed into summer, and Evelyn's belly grew round beneath her dresses. She bought baby clothes one piece at a time, sometimes from discount bins, sometimes from thrift shops. She chose soft blues and whites, simple patterns, nothing extravagant. As she folded each tiny outfit, she would whisper to the child, "We'll be okay. I'll make sure of it." Noah visited often, not as a doctor, but as a quiet presence who refused to disappear. He brought healthy meals, prenatal vitamins, and sometimes just sat with her while she rested on the couch. He never overstepped, never asked for more than she could give. And for that, she trusted him more each day. By late September, the contractions began. Evelyn woke at 3 a.m., gripping the edge of the mattress as a knife-like pain tore through her abdomen. She breathed through it, whispering encouragement to herself. But when the second wave hit, she knew she needed help. She called Noah. He answered on the first ring. "I'm coming. Don't move. Keep breathing." Minutes later, he was at her door, supporting her weight as they made their way to his car. Rain hammered the windshield as he drove toward the hospital, his jaw tight with worry. "You're going to be okay," he repeated. "I've got you." When they reached the maternity ward, nurses rushed her into a delivery room. The world became a blur of bright lights, urgent instructions, and the rhythmic thump of the heart monitor. Evelyn gripped the bed rails, pushing through waves of agony, her breaths sharp and uneven. Hours later, the cries of a newborn broke through the chaos. The nurse placed a small, warm bundle on her chest. Evelyn looked down into a pair of startlingly familiar eyes. Grant's eyes, the same shade she once loved, now staring up at her with innocence that nearly broke her. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Hi, sweetheart." Tears streamed silently down her cheeks. She wasn't thinking about betrayal, or divorce papers, or the life Grant chose instead. In this moment, all she saw was the tiny miracle she fought so hard to protect. Noah stood at the foot of the bed, smiling with exhausted relief. "You did it, Evelyn." But she shook her head weakly. "No, we did." End quote. Later, when the nurse asked for the baby's name, Evelyn hesitated only a moment before saying softly, "Liam." A child born into silence, ending the silence in her heart. For the first few weeks after Liam's birth, Evelyn lived in a haze of sleepless nights, soft cries, and fragile joy. She spent hours rocking him in the dim glow of a thrift store lamp, memorizing the shape of his tiny fingers, the way his eyelids fluttered when he dreamed. Those quiet moments felt sacred, a gentle reprieve from the chaos of everything she had endured. But the peace didn't last. During Liam's 1-month checkup, the pediatrician frowned at the monitor, tapping the screen twice as if hoping it would change its reading. "His heartbeat is irregular," she said carefully. "It could be nothing, but we need further tests." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means we need to rule out a congenital defect." End quote. The words hit her like a physical blow. Once the doctors confirmed that Liam had a small ventricular septal defect, a hole in the wall between the heart's lower chambers, Evelyn felt the world tilt. The condition wasn't uncommon, they explained, and many babies outgrew it. But some needed surgery. Expensive surgery. And Evelyn had no insurance through the hospital anymore. Her leave of absence had expired, and her position had quietly been filled. She received the email the same day Liam was diagnosed. A single sentence cut deeper than any breakup. "We appreciate your service, but your employment cannot be extended." Her breath hitched when she read it. She sat on the kitchen floor with Liam sleeping on her chest, fighting the fear rising in her throat. Rent, formula, medical bills, the cost of heart surgery. Everything felt impossible. Noah arrived later that evening with groceries, unaware of the storm brewing inside her. He found her staring blankly at the wall, clutching Liam too tightly. "Evelyn?" he asked softly. "What happened?" She couldn't speak. She simply handed him the printed diagnosis. Noah's face changed instantly, sadness first, then determination. "We'll get him the care he needs. You're not alone." Those words made her cry harder. She hated needing help. She hated feeling weak. But Noah didn't flinch. He sat beside her on the floor and steadied her shaking hands. Over the next few months, Evelyn worked every job she could find overnight, clerking at a pharmacy, part-time reception shifts, even delivering groceries. She wore herself thin, often skipping meals so she could afford Liam's medications. The exhaustion etched deep lines beneath her eyes, but she pushed on, driven by the fierce love that had replaced everything she'd lost. She avoided social media, but one afternoon, while waiting for a bus, she overheard two women talking about Cambria Road's latest post. "Did you see? Grant and Cambria bought a house in Beverly Hills. It's huge. Must be nice to have that kind of money." The words stung. Not because she missed Grant, she didn't. But because while she struggled to afford formula, he lived large with the woman he chose over her. Still, Evelyn kept moving. Every night she whispered to Liam, "I'll make this work, baby. I won't let you suffer for his choices." Meanwhile, Noah continued helping whenever he could. He accompanied her to every cardiology appointment, explained every medical term, and held Liam whenever Evelyn needed to breathe. Sometimes, she caught him watching Liam with a tenderness she didn't dare interpret. One evening, after a long day of work, Evelyn found an envelope taped to her door. No return address. Her heart raced as she opened it. Inside were photos. Her, Liam, Noah, taken secretly, and on the last one, scrawled in red ink, "He's not your father. And he never will be." Her breath froze. The past wasn't done with her. Evelyn stared at the photographs spread across her kitchen table, her hands trembling so violently she had to grip the edge to steady herself. Each picture showed a moment stolen from her fragile new life. Noah holding Liam during a checkup, Evelyn pushing the stroller down a quiet Queens sidewalk, the three of them sitting together on a park bench. Someone had followed them. Someone had watched. And the final image, the one with slanted red handwriting slashed across it, made her blood run cold. "He's not your father, and he never will be." End quote. End quote. She sank into a chair, clutching Liam to her chest, as if the ink on the page could somehow reach him. Her mind flashed through possibilities. A neighbor, a stranger, a random stalker. But deep inside, she already knew who would have the motive. Grant, or worse, Cambria. The two of them had moved on with lavish new lives, but Cambria had always hated that Evelyn existed at all. The affair wasn't enough. She needed to feel superior, needed to win. And the fact that Evelyn had found support, maybe even affection, in Noah's presence, that would be intolerable to a woman like her. When Noah arrived later that evening with a bag of groceries, he noticed her pale expression immediately. "Evelyn, what happened?" he asked, setting everything down and walking toward her. She pushed the photos toward him. "Someone's watching us." His jaw tensed as he examined each image. The muscles in his neck tightened as he reached the final one. "Where did this come from?" "It was taped to my door." Noah exhaled sharply, a controlled breath, the kind a man releases when he's trying not to break something. "You should have called me the moment you found these." "I didn't want to bother you," she whispered. "You're not bothering me," he said firmly. "You and Liam's safety is not a bother." Evelyn looked down, heart twisting both with fear and something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name. "What do we do?" "No more walking alone at night. Keep your curtains closed. And tomorrow, I'm installing cameras." "We can't afford cameras," she murmured. "I can," he said simply. "This isn't up for debate." He stayed with her until Liam fell asleep, checking every lock, every window, every hallway corner, as if danger lurked behind each shadow. When he finally left, Evelyn watched him walk to his car, shoulders stiff with the weight of someone else's worry, a weight he carried for her. The next morning, on her way to a temporary shift at a clinic, Evelyn's phone buzzed with a notification. A friend from the hospital had sent her a link. Confused, she opened it and felt her stomach drop. Cambria Rhodes had posted a new video. In it, Cambria stood in her marble kitchen in Los Angeles, holding a mug with the word "Blessed" printed in gold. She smiled sweetly into the camera and began. "I just want to remind women out there, don't be bitter when your man finds someone who pushes him to grow. Some people just weren't meant to be wives." Evelyn froze. Comments flooded in. "She's talking about his ex. Poor woman. Imagine being replaced by Cambria." Grant definitely upgraded. Her chest tightened painfully. She scrolled further until one comment stopped her breath. "I heard his ex already moved on with another man. Kinda fast, don't you think?" Her pulse hammered. Someone was feeding Cambria information. Someone close. And there was only one person who knew both worlds, Queens and Beverly Hills, poverty and luxury, betrayal and success. Grant. He wasn't done with her. Not yet. By the time Liam turned 7 months old, Evelyn had learned to live with a strange combination of vigilance and exhaustion. The photographs taped to her door had not returned, but the fear they carried settled inside her like a second heartbeat, quiet, constant, impossible to ignore. Noah checked on her more often, though he pretended it was only to see Liam. Evelyn pretended to believe him. One crisp December afternoon, the clinic where she worked held a small holiday charity event at Bryant Park. Families gathered around the decorated trees, children squealed with delight at the ice rink, and volunteers wrapped toys for donation. Evelyn brought Liam, bundled in a navy blue coat, his dark lashes fluttering as he took in the sparkling lights overhead. For a moment, just one rare, gentle moment, Evelyn allowed herself to feel normal again. "Hey," Noah said, slipping beside her with 2 cups of hot chocolate. "Thought you might need this." She smiled, tired but genuine. "Thank you. He might actually love Christmas this year." "He'll love anything if you're in the room," Noah replied softly, his gaze warming. Before she could respond, Liam let out a delighted squeal, reaching for something behind her. Evelyn turned, and her entire world stopped. Grant stood at the edge of the crowd. He looked almost unrecognizable. Thinner, paler, suit wrinkled as if slept in, eyes bloodshot. But it was him. Her past. Her nightmare. The man who abandoned her on Christmas, who told her she wasn't enough, who married the woman who tried to destroy her. And he was staring at Liam, no studying him. The crowd thinned for a split second, giving Evelyn a clear view of Grant's expression. His eyes widened, his breath hitched, and he took one unsteady step forward. "Evelyn," he whispered, voice cracking. Noah moved instantly, stepping between them with a controlled, protective stillness. "You don't belong here, Grant." "Everyone." Grant ignored him. His gaze stayed locked on Liam, who stared back with the same storm-gray eyes Grant once saw in the bathroom mirror every morning. "That's... he..." Grant's voice faltered. "He looks like me." Evelyn felt her lungs tighten painfully. Her hands trembled as she held Liam closer. "You need to leave." Grant shook his head slowly, disbelieving. "Is he? Evelyn, tell me, is he mine?" "Leave," Noah repeated, firmer. But Grant stepped closer anyway. "You never told me. You never even gave me the chance," Evelyn snapped. "A chance? The night I needed you most, you were in Beverly Hills with her. You chose another woman over your wife on Christmas, and you expect a chance?" Grant flinched, truly flinched. "I didn't know. Evelyn, please, just tell me the truth." People were beginning to stare. Phone cameras rose subtly in the background. A tense electricity crackled through the air. Cambria Rhodes had taught Grant well about spectacle, but Evelyn refused to give him another public moment at her expense. "No," she said, voice low and steady. "You lost the right to the truth when you walked out." Grant's face crumpled, the first sign of real emotion she had seen on him in years. "Evelyn, don't do this. I just want to know." Noah cut in sharply. "Step back." "Last warning." Grant hesitated, then finally retreated, but his eyes stayed glued to Liam, burning with a dawning obsession. Evelyn recognized instantly. This wasn't over, and the next move would be his. Grant didn't disappear after Bryant Park. If anything, seeing Liam seemed to awaken something dark and restless inside him. Over the next week, Evelyn caught glimpses of him everywhere, too many to be coincidence. A figure across the street when she left the clinic, a familiar silhouette by the grocery store entrance, a car idling near her apartment complex longer than necessary. He wasn't approaching her. He was studying her. Studying them. One night, as she rocked Liam to sleep, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost ignored it until she saw the preview of the message. "You owe me the truth." Her heart lurched. She blocked the number, but new ones appeared over the following days, each message more insistent than the last. "I deserve to know. He looks exactly like me. You can't hide this forever." Evelyn deleted every one, but the anxiety lingered like static in the air. Noah noticed immediately. "You're jumpy," he said one evening after stopping by with dinner. "What's he done now?" "Nothing," she lied. Noah didn't buy it. "Evelyn, you don't have to protect him, or pretend." She exhaled shakily. "He won't stop texting me. He's following us. He wants answers." Noah's expression hardened, jaw locking with a silent promise she wasn't sure she deserved. "Then, I'll handle it." "No," she shook her head. "If you confront him, he'll twist it. He's good at that. He'll play the victim." "Let him try," Noah muttered. But the truth was, Evelyn feared something deeper. Grant didn't want closure. He wanted control. The same control he'd exercised during their marriage, disguised as charm and ambition. A few days later, while returning from a cardiology appointment, Evelyn paused outside her building when she saw movement near the entrance. Grant stepped out of the shadows, hands shoved into his coat pockets, breath fogging in the December air. "I just want to talk," he said, palms lifting in a gesture meant to appear harmless. Noah stiffened beside her. "You need to leave." Grant's eyes flicked to him with thinly veiled disdain. I'm not talking to you. You're not talking to her either. Noah shot back. Evelyn's pulse pounded as Grant stepped closer. 7 years, Evelyn. 7 years you kept my son from me. If you 11. He's not your son, she said sharply, though her voice trembled. He's a child, not a trophy for you to reclaim. Grant scoffed. Reclaim? You stole him from me. Noah moved in front of Evelyn, almost instinctively. Walk away, Grant. But Grant's voice dropped to something quieter, more dangerous. I'm not walking away. Not this time. I want a DNA test. Evelyn felt the world tilt around her. Not because she feared the truth, Liam was undeniably Grant's, but because she knew exactly what Grant would do with that truth. Leverage it, exploit it, weaponize it. No, she said, absolutely not. Grant laughed under his breath, bitter and cracked. You don't get to say no. If he's mine, I have rights. Noah stepped forward. You forfeited those rights the night you abandoned her. Grant's jaw twitched. Stay out of this, doctor. No, Noah said calmly. I don't think I will. Wintinan. For a moment, the three of them stood locked in a silent standoff, winter wind curling around their feet. Liam babbled softly in Evelyn's arms, completely unaware of the war unfolding over him. Grant's eyes softened for a split second at the sound, then hardened again. This isn't over, he said quietly. I'm going to get answers. With or without your cooperation. He turned and walked away into the swirling snow, leaving Evelyn shaking. Noah touched her shoulder, gently. He's losing control, Evelyn. That makes him unpredictable. She swallowed. What do I do? His voice softened. You do what you've always done. Survive. But this time, Evelyn knew survival wouldn't be enough. Grant was preparing to escalate, and she needed to be ready. 3 days after the confrontation in front of her building, Evelyn received an official-looking envelope in the mail. No return address, no handwritten note. Just heavy paper and an unsettling weight that made her hands tremble before she even opened it. Liam slept in his crib, soft breaths rising and falling. Evelyn clung to that piece for a moment longer, before tearing the envelope open. Inside was a formal petition. Grant Marlowe was requesting court-ordered paternity testing. Her knees weakened. She grabbed the edge of the kitchen counter to keep from collapsing. It wasn't the test itself that terrified her. She had never doubted Liam's paternity, but the consequences. Grant didn't want to be a father. He wanted to win. To regain control. To punish her for daring to build a life without him. When Noah stopped by that evening with dinner, he found her sitting on the kitchen floor, the papers scattered around her like broken glass. He knelt immediately. Evelyn, what is this? She handed him the petition with shaking fingers. Noah read it once, then again, jaw clenching as anger settled into the quiet spaces of the apartment. He's really doing this. He's actually doing this. He won't let us go, Evelyn whispered. He thinks Liam belongs to him. He thinks he can just take him back. Noah sat beside her, shoulders tense. He's not taking anything. You've raised Liam. You've protected him. Grant doesn't get to swoop in after years of absence and claim rights he never earned. Beeble. But the law doesn't work that way, she said softly. If he forces a test, and if he proves it, he still doesn't get custody, Noah interrupted. His history, his abandonment, his unstable home environment, all of that matters. Evelyn's voice cracked. But he's rich, powerful, connected. Cambria has influence. I've seen what she can do online. If she wants to paint me as unfit, the internet will help her do it. Noah touched her hand, grounding her spiraling fear. Then we fight back. Together. But Evelyn didn't feel brave. She felt small, fragile, like a woman trapped in a storm she never asked for. The next morning, she met with a legal aid attorney, one willing to help her at a reduced cost. The woman scanned the documents, frowning. He's not playing around. He wants a legal foothold. Can he take my son? Evelyn whispered. Not without proving you're unfit, and you're not. But he can complicate your life, financially, emotionally, legally. End quote. Actress in whether brodazas. Evelyn swallowed the rising panic. What do I do? For now, comply, the attorney said. If you resist, it looks bad. Let the test happen. Let the truth speak. Then we'll prepare for whatever he tries next. That night, Evelyn barely slept. When she did drift off, she dreamed of Liam being pulled from her arms, her voice hoarse from screaming, while Grant smiled coldly in the background. She woke breathless, trembling, gripping her pillow like a lifeline. The following week, she and Liam arrived at the appointed clinic for the paternity test. Grant was already there, wearing a suit far too polished for someone claiming to seek truth. Cambria stood beside him, sunglasses on indoors, lips curved in a smirk that made Evelyn's stomach twist. "Ready to get this over with?" Grant asked. Noah, who insisted on coming, stepped between them. "She's not speaking to you," Grant scoffed. "Afraid of the results?" "No," Noah said evenly. "We're afraid of the man you'll become afterward." The nurse called them in. Evelyn held Liam tightly as the swab brushed the inside of his cheek. Grant watched like a hawk. Possessive, obsessed, a man who wanted back what he threw away. As they walked out, the nurse said the results would be ready in a week that would change everything. The week waiting for the paternity results stretched longer than any week of Evelyn's life. Every morning, she woke with a knot in her stomach, half expecting another envelope, another threat, another ambush from the past that refused to stay buried. She tried to focus on Liam, on his tiny hands grasping her shirt, on the soft babbles that filled their cramped apartment, but fear seeped into everything. On the 5th day, fear became reality. It began with a single notification on her phone, a message from a former colleague at the hospital. "Are you okay? You should see what's being posted." Her chest tightened. She opened the link. Cambria Rhodes had uploaded a new video. Her signature glossy aesthetic filled the screen. Soft lighting, an immaculate kitchen, a pastel mug of herbal tea held delicately between manicured fingers. The tone was sweet, gentle, almost sympathetic, yet every word carried poison. "I just want to talk about integrity," Cambria began, staring into the camera as if speaking to millions of loyal followers. "Some women take advantage of men's kindness. They fabricate stories. They use children as leverage." Evelyn froze. "No, no, no, no." Cambria continued, her voice soft with feigned concern. "It's heartbreaking, especially when the woman in question has a medical history of instability, unpredictable behavior, even professional misconduct. Everybody." Evelyn felt her breath leave her body. Cambria was painting her as mentally unfit, dangerous, even. She scrolled the comments, dread rising with every line. "She sounds unhinged. Poor Grant. Imagine being trapped with someone like that. Is she really using a kid to get money? This is disgusting if true. And the worst one, the hospital should investigate her." Her entire body went cold. She had already lost her job once. If these lies spread, she could lose any chance of steady employment again. Noah arrived minutes later after receiving a panicked voicemail. He found her standing in the middle of the living room, shaking, the phone dangling from her fingers. "Evelyn," he said gently, "talk to me." She turned the screen toward him. "She's destroying me, Noah. She wants everyone to think I'm unstable. She wants to take Liam from me before the test results even come back." End quote. Noah's face darkened with a fury she had never seen in him. "This is defamation. She can't get away with this." "She has millions of followers," Evelyn whispered. "I have nothing. No platform, no money, no one who even knows my side." "You have me," Noah said, stepping closer. "And you have the truth. That's more than she'll ever have." But truth didn't matter on social media. Influence did. And Cambria wielded hers like a blade. As if on cue, Evelyn's phone buzzed again, this time a call from the clinic manager where she worked part-time. Her stomach dropped. She answered with a trembling voice. "Hello? Evelyn," the manager said hesitantly. "I'm sorry, but we need to discuss the video circulating online. We received several complaints this morning. Families are concerned." "I didn't do anything," she whispered, tears burning behind her eyes. "They're lies. Thanks for watching." "Shikashin, I believe you," the manager said, "but until this clears up, we have to suspend your shifts, temporarily." Temporarily. A word that felt like a trapdoor opening under her feet. "I need this job," Evelyn said, fighting back a sob. "I need it for my son." "I'm sorry," the manager repeated quietly. When the call ended, Evelyn sank to the floor, covering her mouth as sobs shook her body. Liam stirred in his crib, sensing her distress. Noah knelt beside her, voice trembling with controlled rage. "She wants you broken. She wants you too exhausted to fight. Evelyn looked up, eyes burning with something sharper than fear. But she underestimated me. She lifted herself from the floor, wiped her tears, and stared at the screen where Cambria smiled in fake serenity. "If she wants a war," Evelyn whispered, "I'll give her one." The suspension from the clinic hit Evelyn harder than she expected. Not because she felt ashamed she hadn't done anything wrong, but because losing even that small income made her situation feel suddenly, terrifyingly fragile. Liam's medications, his cardiology appointments, basic bills, everything depended on her ability to work. And now Cambria's smear campaign had snatched that away without lifting a finger. But fear wasn't the only thing rising in Evelyn. Anger was too. The next morning, she marched into the legal aid office, where her attorney, Miss Dalton, sat reviewing case files. Evelyn dropped her phone onto the desk. The paused video of Cambria frozen mid-smirk. "She's lying," Evelyn said, voice hard, "and she's hurting my ability to care for my son." Miss Dalton adjusted her glasses and studied the screen. "This is absolutely defamation. She's implying you're unstable, unfit, and manipulative. We can file a civil suit." "But she's rich," Evelyn whispered. "She'll drag it out for years." "Yes, Miss Dalton said calmly, but the threat of discovery could pressure her. Influencers don't want their private lives examined under a legal microscope, especially not ones with skeletons. For the first time since this nightmare began, Evelyn felt a small spark of power. "And we can subpoena Grant's communication records?" she asked. Miss Dalton nodded. "If we file, it would give us access to texts, emails, and internal messages, including anything sent from him to Cambria regarding you." "Oldo." The thought made Evelyn's pulse quicken. She remembered the red ink message on the photograph, the sudden smear campaign, the timing. Grant wasn't just watching her. Grant was feeding Cambria ammunition. "Do it," Evelyn said. "File everything we need to." When she left the office, Manhattan's winter air hit her face like a reminder she was still standing, still fighting, still here. But the day wasn't done with her yet. As she walked home with Liam tucked inside his carrier, she noticed a sleek black car parked across the street from her building. The windows tinted, the engine running. Her stomach tightened. Noah wasn't due to visit. Miss Dalton didn't drive a car like that, and the parking spot was so close, too close, not to mean something. She stepped inside her building quickly, bolting the lock behind her. Minutes later, a soft knock echoed through the hallway. Her heart froze. Another knock, firmer. Liam whimpered. "Evelyn?" A voice called from the other side. "It's Grant. Open the door." She stepped back, shaking her head even though he couldn't see her. "No," she said loudly. "Go away." "We need to talk," Grant insisted. "I saw what Cambria posted. I didn't know she was going to do that." Evelyn laughed a short, bitter sound. "Yes, you did. Or maybe you gave her the idea." Silence. Then, quietly, "They suspended you, didn't they?" "You don't get to ask me questions," she snapped. "You started this." "I just want the truth," he said, voice strained. "If Liam is mine, I deserve." "You deserve nothing," she cut in. "You abandoned us before you even knew he existed." There was a long pause. Then, "The results come back tomorrow." Evelyn's breath caught. "Let me see him," Grant added, voice trembling not with tenderness, but possession. "Just once." "No." Her answer was immediate, solid. "You don't get to see him now. You don't get to walk in here and play father after destroying my life." Grant's tone hardened. "You can't hide forever." "I'm not hiding," Evelyn said. "I'm preparing." With shaking hands, she dialed Noah. He answered on the second ring. "He's here," she whispered. "I'm coming," Noah replied. "Don't open the door." She didn't. Outside, she heard Grant's footsteps retreating but slowly. Reluctantly, this wasn't over. Tomorrow, the truth would come, and it would redraw every line of war. The next morning arrived with a heaviness that made Evelyn feel as though the air itself resisted her breathing. She barely slept. Every hour, she jolted awake, fearing she had missed the clinic's call. By sunrise, she sat at the kitchen table, holding a warm bottle for Liam, staring at her silent phone like it was a live grenade. At 9:17 a.m., it rang. Her hands shook as she answered. "Hello? Miss Marlowe," the nurse said, voice neutral. "The paternity results are ready. You may access them online or pick them up in person." Evelyn's stomach twisted. Are you allowed to tell me anything over the phone? I'm sorry, the nurse replied. We can't share results verbally, but the file is already uploaded. Her heart pounded so loudly she almost couldn't hear the rest of the instructions. As soon as the call ended, her hands flew across the screen, logging into the portal. Her breath caught when the file appeared. Paternity test results Marlowe, Liam Marlowe. She clicked. It opened. One line shattered the silence. Probability of paternity: 99.998%. For a moment, she said nothing, felt nothing. She only stared at the screen, as if the letters were trying to rearrange themselves. She knew this truth for 7 years. She lived it, but seeing it in black and white made reality come crashing down with terrifying clarity. Grant would not walk away now. Noah arrived minutes later, breathless, snow still clinging to his coat. Did they call? What does it say? Evelyn turned the screen toward him. He read the line silently, then closed his eyes. Damn it, I told you, she whispered. He won't stop. He can try, Noah said, but he won't win. Before she could respond, a sharp knock rattled the door. Noah stepped instinctively in front of her. Stay back. He opened the door halfway. Grant stood outside, results already in hand, chest rising and falling as if he had sprinted the whole way. His eyes were wild triumph, mixed with desperation. So, he said softly, it's true. Evelyn felt Liam tense in her arms. She held him tighter. Leave. Grant shook his head. No, I'm his father, and now I have proof. You had proof the moment you saw him, she snapped. You just needed paperwork to justify your obsession. His gaze flicked to Noah. Of course he's here. Playing hero. Noah didn't flinch. Someone has to be the man you weren't. Grant's jaw tightened. I'm filing for visitation, and eventually, custody. Evelyn felt her blood turn to ice. Custody? You think you can tear him out of the only home he knows? Grant stepped forward. Noah blocked him with a single, unyielding movement. You walked out, Evelyn said, voice trembling with fury and heartbreak. On our marriage, on our life, on the night I needed you most. You don't get to show up years later and pretend you're entitled to anything. Grant's expression cracked anger, guilt, panic flickering beneath the surface. I made mistakes, but he's mine. No, she whispered, he's a child, not a prize you win. Grant took a breath, steadied his voice, and spoke the words that made Evelyn's knees weaken. My lawyer will be in touch. He turned and walked away, boots crunching in the snow, leaving the doorway cold and jagged behind him. Noah closed the door gently, his voice low and steady. This isn't the end, he said. This is where we start fighting. Evelyn exhaled shakily, holding Liam close. For the first time, she wasn't just scared. She was ready. 2 days after the paternity test results detonated Evelyn's fragile peace, the entire situation escalated faster and more viciously than she could have predicted. Grant had filed his petition. Lawyers were circling. But it wasn't Grant who struck first. It was Cambria. Evelyn was feeding Liam oatmeal in their tiny kitchen when her phone buzzed non-stop, notifications popping across the screen like sparks before a wildfire. She frowned and opened the first message. Then her entire body went cold. Cambria had posted again. This time, it wasn't vague accusations or carefully crafted innuendo. It was targeted, cruel, and unmistakably aimed at destroying Evelyn's credibility before any custody hearing could begin. The video opened with Cambria sitting in her designer living room, a faux somber expression on her flawless face. I wasn't going to say more, she began, voice syrupy soft. But after receiving dozens of messages from concerned women, I feel a moral responsibility to speak up. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Cambria continued, there are people who shouldn't be raising children, people who manipulate, deceive, and emotionally abuse the men in their lives. And sometimes, they have children to trap them. Evelyn gasped out loud. Liam startled in his high chair. No, this couldn't be happening. The comments were already pouring in. She sounds insane. I hope Grant gets custody. Poor baby stuck with a woman like that. Influencers don't lie about this stuff. Evelyn covered her mouth, tears burning behind her eyes. Why is she doing this? Why does she hate me so much? Noah arrived minutes later, because, of course he did. He had seen the video too. His face was tight, fury simmering beneath the surface like a barely contained earthquake. "This is defamation," he said sharply. "She's not even hiding it anymore." "But people believe her," Evelyn whispered, "and judges read social media. This could influence the court." Noah leaned forward, voice unwavering. "Then we make sure the court sees the truth." Before Evelyn could ask what he meant, her phone rang, this time a call from Miss Dalton. "I saw the video," the attorney said without greeting. "This is good." "Good?" Evelyn choked. "How is any of this good?" "Because she got sloppy," Miss Dalton replied. "She accused you of emotional instability and manipulation without evidence. That opens her up to litigation. And if we file a suit against her, her communications become subject to discovery." "What does that mean?" Evelyn asked. "It means we can subpoena her messages, emails, DMs, anything she sent to or received from Grant." Miss Dalton paused. "If they coordinated the harassment, we'll find out." A shiver ran through Evelyn, not of fear, but of something darker. Something cautious. Something powerful. "The judge won't take Liam away," Miss Dalton continued. "Not if we prove this was a smear campaign." After the call ended, Evelyn stood at the window, watching snow drift past the streetlights. She thought of the first video Cambria had ever made about her, how subtle it had been, how polished, how carefully crafted to make Evelyn look unhinged without ever naming her. But this time was different. This time, Cambria had overplayed her hand. Noah placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You're stronger than she thinks." "I'm tired of being strong," Evelyn whispered. "I want to be free." "You will be." She turned toward him, eyes still wet but burning with resolve. "No more hiding," she said. "No more crying behind closed doors. If she wants war, I'll give her war." Noah nodded with quiet pride. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Evelyn didn't feel hunted. She felt dangerous. The lawsuit against Cambria was filed at 8:03 a.m. on a Thursday morning. By noon, the influencers team had already issued a statement calling the claims baseless, accusing Evelyn of retaliation, and painting herself yet again as the graceful victim of another woman's alleged instability. But something unexpected happened. The internet didn't swallow it this time. Over the next 24 hours, cracks began forming in Cambria's perfect facade. A few small gossip accounts posted screenshots from deleted comments showing fans questioning her motives. One user shared a timeline of events that didn't add up. Another resurfaced clips where Cambria subtly contradicted herself. By evening, a microwave of online skepticism had begun. And by the next morning, it wasn't micro anymore. Evelyn woke to dozens of notifications. She braced herself prepared for more attacks, but instead, she saw the opposite. "Something feels off about Cambria's story." End quote. "Why is she talking about integrity while dragging a woman who hasn't said a word? This doesn't sit right. Grant cheated. That's public record. Why is she obsessed with the ex?" Evelyn blinked, rereading each message as if afraid they would vanish. Noah arrived moments later with a bag of groceries, though he clearly came because he wanted to check on her. "Have you seen the shift?" he asked, excitement flickering in his usually calm eyes. "People are starting to see through her." "If the dawn pan, I don't understand," Evelyn whispered. "Why now?" "Because liars always slip," Noah said, "and the louder they get, the faster they expose themselves." Before they could say more, Evelyn's phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Miss Dalton. "Call me immediately. We found something." Evelyn's pulse spiked. She dialed. "We obtained partial discovery," Miss Dalton said briskly. "Cambria's team gave us access to her social media backups. And," Evelyn whispered, "there are dozens of deleted messages between her and Grant." A cold tremor ran through Evelyn. "What kind of messages?" "The kind that prove collusion," Miss Dalton said. "He sent her updates about you. Where you lived, your work schedule, Liam's age, photos." Evelyn's heart stopped. Photos. Her hands shook as she held the phone. "He gave her pictures of my son?" "Yes," Miss Dalton confirmed. "And worse, he encouraged her to hit hard online the moment the paternity test was filed. His exact words, 'Break her before court begins.'" Evelyn pressed a hand over her mouth, staggering. "How could he? Liam is his child." "Predators don't see children," Miss Dalton said dryly. "They see leverage." Noah stepped closer, steadying Evelyn by the arm as tears gathered in her eyes, not of weakness, but of betrayal so sharp it cut the breath from her lungs. But that's not all, Miss Dalton continued. Cambria also recorded a voice memo complaining that Grant was making her do all the dirty work. And she admits she never cared about Liam, only about keeping you silent. Evelyn swallowed hard. Please tell me we can use this. We absolutely can, Miss Dalton said. This changes the entire narrative. Judges loathe manipulation. They loathe coordinated harassment even more. Noah exhaled, the relief on his face almost palpable. This could save your custody case. Mistress. It won't just save it, Miss Dalton corrected. It might destroy theirs. When the call ended, Evelyn sat down slowly, holding Liam close as he babbled happily against her shoulder, blissfully, unaware that the world was shifting beneath their feet. For the first time, Evelyn didn't feel hunted. She felt the tide turning. Noah knelt in front of her, voice gentle. You're winning, Evelyn. She wiped her tears, not of fear, but of new, rising strength. No, she said softly. We're just getting started. The moment the evidence dropped, screenshots, voice memos, timestamps, the tone of the entire case shifted. What had begun as a battle for survival now looked more like a battle for justice. Cambria's PR team scrambled to contain the leak, releasing rushed statements that contradicted one another. Meanwhile, Grant had gone silent, which was never a good sign. Silence was where he strategized, where he sharpened knives he intended to use later. But for the first time, Evelyn wasn't shaking. She was preparing. Miss Dalton called that afternoon. The judge moved the preliminary hearing up. Grant's team is panicking. They know they're losing leverage. Good, Evelyn thought. Let them panic. That evening, Noah arrived at her apartment with takeout and a laptop. You're going to practice, he said gently. The judge will want to hear from you, and I want you ready. Evelyn nodded. She owed it to Liam. They spent hours reviewing her statements, every detail from the night Grant abandoned her to the day he demanded a DNA test. Noah listened carefully, occasionally asking clarifying questions, always supportive, always calm. His presence steadied her breathing. Around 10 p.m. After reviewing yet another set of screenshots, Noah leaned back in his chair. You know what this shows, right? That they coordinated everything, Evelyn said. It shows something else, Noah replied. It shows that you were targeted, deliberately, systematically. Evelyn swallowed. I know. No, he said softly. I mean, you need to believe it, really believe it, because you keep talking, as if you caused this somehow, as if you should have been stronger, or smarter, or luckier. He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. But this wasn't your fault. It never was. Her eyes burned. She looked away before emotion could spill over. Before she could answer, a hard knock shook the front door. Evelyn froze. Noah stood instantly, protective instinct kicking in. Stay here. He cracked the door open, and there was Grant. Disheveled, agitated, breathing hard as if he'd been pacing for hours. His eyes flicked to Evelyn behind Noah. We need to talk, Grant said. Now. No, Noah replied firmly. You can talk to her attorney. Grant shoved the door wider, forcing Noah to brace it with his shoulder. I'm not talking to her attorney. I'm talking to the mother of my son. Evelyn stepped forward before Noah could push the door shut. What do you want? Grant's voice cracked. Everything online is blowing up. Cambria's losing sponsors. My firm pulled me from 2 contracts because of the accusations in your suit. You're ruining my life. Evelyn let out a breathless laugh, cold, harsh, honest. You mean the life you built on lies? Grant flinched. I never meant for any of this to go so far. There you know. You asked her to break me, Evelyn said. Your messages prove it. Grant's face twisted. I was angry. You kept my son from me. You left us, she said. You chose her. You don't get to rewrite the story because it's inconvenient. Grant stepped closer, desperation bleeding through every word. Evelyn, please. Withdraw the lawsuit. Tell the judge this was a misunderstanding. I can still fix things with the firm. No, she said sharply. This time, you face consequences. By 2. He stared at her as if seeing a stranger, someone stronger, sharper, rebuilt from the rubble he left behind. You're making a mistake, he muttered. No, Evelyn whispered. I made my last mistake when I married you. Noah stepped fully between them, voice steady and unwavering. You need to leave, Grant. Before the police get involved. Grant hesitated, then stepped back, eyes burning with a mix of fear, fury, and something like grief. "This isn't over," he said quietly. As he disappeared into the hallway, Noah locked the door and turned to her. "You didn't break," he said softly. "You stood your ground." For the first time, Evelyn allowed herself to believe it. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning, the kind of bitter, windy December day where Manhattan felt like it was built from steel and judgment. Evelyn barely slept the night before. She packed Liam's diaper bag 3 times, checking bottles, toys, snacks, anything to keep him calm through whatever storm awaited them. Noah picked them up at 8 a.m. He wore a dark coat, freshly pressed, but the worry in his eyes was unmistakable. "You ready?" he asked gently. "No," she admitted, "but I'm going anyway." When they arrived at the courthouse, reporters were already gathered on the steps. Cambria's scandal had drawn attention, and Evelyn flinched as cameras pointed toward her. Noah shielded her with his arm, guiding her quickly inside. Miss Dalton was waiting with a folder thick enough to be a weapon. "We're prepared," she said. "Stay calm, answer honestly, and let me do the heavy lifting." Evelyn nodded, though her heartbeat thudded loudly in her ears. Inside the courtroom, Grant sat on the opposite bench, dressed in a suit that couldn't hide the exhaustion in his eyes. Cambria wasn't allowed inside. This hearing involved parental rights, but she had sent her attorney, who sat beside Grant with an expression that radiated arrogance. Liam babbled softly on Evelyn's lap, tugging at the zipper of her coat. His innocence made the moment feel even heavier. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The proceedings began with formalities, but tension spiked the instant the judge brought up the online harassment incident. Evelyn held her breath as Miss Dalton presented the messages, the voice memo, the screenshots. Grant's lawyer tried to object. Failed. Then it was Grant's turn to speak. He rose slowly, placing one hand on the table as if steadying himself. "Your Honor, I made mistakes," he began, "but I want to be a father. I want to know my son." Evelyn felt those words cut straight through her. Liam looked up at the sound of Grant's voice, and the reaction was immediate. He began to cry. At first, just a soft whimper, then a louder, sharper wail. He clung to Evelyn's sweater, burying his face in her chest, trembling. His small fingers tightened, as if fearing someone might take him. Grant's expression faltered. "Hey buddy, it's okay," he said, trying to smile. Liam cried harder. The courtroom shifted. Judges don't show emotion, but it was impossible to ignore the instinctual reaction of a child recoiling from a stranger. Noah leaned in, whispering soothing words, rubbing Liam's back. Evelyn kissed the top of her son's head, whispering, "You're okay. Mama's here." Grant swallowed. "He just needs time." But the judge held up a hand. "Mr. Marlowe, the child is clearly distressed." "He doesn't know me yet," Grant insisted. "That's the point. I want that chance." "And yet you attempted to damage the mother's reputation online," the judge replied sternly. "You initiated a smear campaign that endangered her employment and stability, thereby endangering the child." "If we wasn't..." Grant's face reddened. "I didn't think she'd lose her job. I didn't know." "Mr. Marlowe," the judge interrupted, "your lack of awareness is not a defense." Liam sobbed harder. Evelyn's heart ached as she rocked him, but a strange, unfamiliar feeling rose beneath the pain. Strength. She wasn't the frightened woman who signed divorce papers in silence. She wasn't the abandoned wife crying over a roast chicken on Christmas night. She was a mother, and her child had just shown the entire courtroom the truth no document could express. He didn't know Grant. He didn't trust Grant. He chose her. And standing there with Liam trembling in her arms, Evelyn finally realized that choice mattered. The hearing recessed for lunch, but Evelyn felt anything but relieved. She stepped into the quiet hallway outside the courtroom, holding Liam close as he recovered from his tears. His tiny fists still clung to her sweater, as if afraid she might disappear if he let go. Noah placed a gentle hand on her back. "You did great in there." "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "Yes," he said softly, "you protected him." Judges noticed that more than any testimony, Evelyn sank onto a bench, rocking Liam until his trembling softened. "I didn't want him to cry," she murmured. "Maybe not," Noah replied, "but kids show the truth adults try to hide." "The end so." Before she could respond, the courtroom doors swung open. Grant emerged with his lawyer, frustration radiating off him like heat. The lawyer spoke in low, urgent tones, But Grant wasn't listening. His eyes sought Evelyn immediately. Noah stepped in front of her instinctively, but Grant raised both hands. "I'm not here to fight." Evelyn's jaw clenched. "Then leave. Please," he said, voice cracking. "Just a moment." Her heart tightened, not out of sympathy, but out of memory. She had once loved that voice, trusted it, built a life around it, and he had crushed her with it. "Still?" she nodded. Noah didn't move far, but he stepped aside enough to watch without interfering. Grant approached slowly, as if Liam might break into tears again at any sudden movement. His gaze fell on the boy, softening with something between awe and regret. "He looks so much like me," Grant whispered. Evelyn stiffened. "He looks like himself." Grant swallowed hard. "I didn't know. If I had known, you would have left anyway," she said quietly. "You left before I could even tell you." He flinched. "I was confused, falling apart. Cambria made me believe." "Stop," she said, shaking her head. "You don't get to blame her. You walked away. You chose her. You abandoned your family." Grant's voice trembled. "I want to try. I want to know him." And Evelyn's chest ached, not because she doubted her decision, but because telling the truth out loud would reopen wounds she spent years stitching shut. "Do you know what it was like," she asked softly, "to be pregnant and alone? To wonder how you were going to feed a newborn? To hold him in my arms the day he was born and cry because he had your eyes?" Grant's breath hitched. "Evelyn, I didn't have you," she continued, tears welling. "I didn't have your family. I didn't have money, stability, support. I worked double shifts. I slept 2 hours a night. I prayed every day that I wouldn't fail him." She looked at him, then really looked at him. "You didn't just walk out on me. You walked out on him. And now you want to walk back in, because your life fell apart." Grant's shoulders slumped, guilt washing over him. "I know I messed up, but I'm trying to fix it." "No," Evelyn whispered, voice steady now. "You're trying to fix yourself, not him, not me." End quote. "Daver Wandas." Liam stirred in her arms, looking up with sleepy confusion. Evelyn pressed a kiss to his forehead. "This little boy doesn't know you," she said, "and he doesn't trust you. That's not my doing, that's yours." Grant blinked rapidly, eyes glassy. "Please, Evelyn, tell me what to do." She shook her head. "It's too late for that." He stood frozen as she walked away, Noah beside her, Liam resting peacefully on her shoulder. For the first time, Evelyn spoke her truth out loud, and she felt something inside her finally begin to heal. The final day of the preliminary hearing arrived with a tension so thick Evelyn felt it pressing against her lungs. Snow drifted lazily outside the courthouse windows, but inside, everything was sharp, cold, and waiting to break. Liam sat in her lap chewing on a soft toy, unaware that the next few hours could shape the rest of his life. Noah sat beside them, knee bouncing slightly, one of the few tells that he was nervous. He kept his voice low. "Whatever happens today, you're not facing it alone." Evelyn nodded, but her throat was too tight to speak. Grant entered the courtroom moments later, looking disheveled in a suit that had once been immaculate. He seemed smaller, somehow, shoulders hunched, confidence drained. The judge called everyone to order. Miss Dalton stood first. "Your Honor, we have demonstrated clear evidence of coordinated harassment against my client, orchestrated by Mr. Marlowe and Miss Rhodes. This behavior not only endangered Miss Marlowe's employment and safety, but also directly harmed the child's stability." Grant's lawyer countered quickly. "My client only sought to understand his rights as a father. Any alleged misconduct was emotionally driven, not malicious." Miss Dalton arched an eyebrow. "A coordinated online smear campaign is not a misunderstanding, counselor." The judge raised a hand, silencing both sides. "Mr. Marlowe, before I make a temporary ruling, you may speak." Grant stood, his voice shook, but not with pride, with fear. "I made mistakes," he said. "But I want to be a father. I want the chance I never had." Evelyn closed her eyes. She knew what was coming next. The judge nodded. "Miss Marlowe, please approach." Her legs felt like glass as she stood. She carried Liam in her arms, stepping toward the bench, Noah close behind her like a shadow of protection. "Miss Marlowe," the judge said gently, "I'd like to observe the child's reaction to both parties. This is not a final ruling, merely an assessment." Evelyn froze. Grant took a small step forward, forcing a smile. "Hi, Liam. It's Daddy." The word tasted wrong in the air. Liam stared at him for a moment, confused. Then his face crumpled, his lower lip trembled. His arms reached not toward Grant, but toward Noah. No, buddy, it's okay," Grant murmured, trying to kneel. Liam whimpered louder, twisting his body away, burying his face against Evelyn's chest. When Grant reached out tentatively, Liam's cries sharpened into panic. The courtroom fell silent, except for the sound of a frightened child. Noah stepped forward instinctively, and Liam flung his tiny arms around Noah's neck, clinging with absolute trust. Within seconds, the crying eased to soft hiccups. Grant watched, devastation swallowing his features. The judge made detailed notes. Then she spoke with calm authority. "Mr. Marlowe, the child's visible distress indicates he is unfamiliar with you and seeks comfort from Mr. Sterling. Combined with your documented misconduct and the actions of your associate Miss Rhodes, the court cannot grant visitation at this time." Grant's breath hitched. "Please. This is my ruling," the judge said firmly. "Your petition for temporary visitation is denied. Further consideration will depend on demonstrated stability and corrective action." Evelyn felt her knees weaken with relief so sharp it nearly hurt. The judge turned to her. "Miss Marlowe, your dedication to your child is evident. Continue doing what you're doing." Evelyn whispered, "Thank you. There's all." As they exited the courtroom, Grant called after her, voice cracking with a mixture of regret and disbelief. "Evelyn, don't take him from me." She turned, meeting his eyes with a strength she had earned, drop by drop, wound by wound. "I didn't take him," she said softly. "You lost him." The custody battle dragged on for weeks, but after the preliminary hearing, the tone had decisively shifted. Grant's attorneys pulled back. Cambria's scandal grew louder, and public support leaned heavily toward Evelyn after multiple leaks revealed the truth behind the smear campaign. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt like the world wasn't pressing down on her, she was rising above it. December arrived, snow blanketing the city the same way it had the night Grant abandoned her years ago. Except this time, she wasn't alone. Liam was older now, curious and bright, and Noah had become an anchor in their lives, steady, patient, and quietly protective. The three of them walked through Manhattan's holiday market, warm lights glowing overhead, the air scented with roasted chestnuts and cinnamon. Liam clutched a small stuffed reindeer Noah had bought him, giggling every time its little bell jingled. Evelyn watched Noah gently lift Liam onto his shoulders, the child squealing with delight. Something inside her softened, something she had locked away for far too long. "You two," she said smiling, "are trouble together." Noah grinned. "Good trouble." Later that evening, as they walked home with snowflakes dusting their coats, Noah hesitated at her doorway. "There's something I want to talk to you about," he said quietly. Her heart fluttered. "What is it?" "Not here," he murmured. "Come outside with me, just for a moment." End quote. He led her to the small courtyard behind her building, where twinkling lights were strung across a single evergreen tree, a simple decoration put up by the tenants. Snow fell softly around them, turning the world quiet and still. Noah took her hands. "Evelyn," he began, voice steady, "I've watched you fight battles no one should have to fight alone. I've seen you give everything to your son, even when you had nothing left for yourself. And I've watched you rebuild yourself from the ashes of someone else's choices." Her breath caught. "You are the strongest woman I know," he continued, "and I don't want to stand on the sidelines anymore." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small velvet box, simple, elegant, nothing like the flashy ring Grant once gave her. This one felt honest. "I love you," Noah whispered. "I love Liam. I want to build a life with both of you, if you'll let me. And Basti." Tears filled her eyes, tears not of fear or grief, but of healing. "I never thought I'd find this again," she whispered. "But you made me believe in good men." She looked toward the apartment window, where Liam pressed his tiny hands against the glass, watching them with wide curiosity. Evelyn turned back to Noah. "Yes," she said softly, "I'll marry you." He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if waiting for this moment all along. Liam burst through the door. Someone must have helped him open it, and ran straight into Noah's arms. "Daddy," he squealed. Noah held him, stunned, eyes glistening. Evelyn touched Liam's hair, her voice trembling with joy. "He chose you long before I did." As snow drifted through the warm glow of Christmas lights, Evelyn realized something. Grant had taken her past, but Noah was offering her a future. And for the first time, she felt whole. The chapters of heartbreak were over. Now, she was writing something new, something she deserved. So, our story comes to a close. And if you're still here, still watching, still listening, then something in Evelyn's journey must have touched your heart in its own quiet way. Maybe it reminded you of a moment when life broke you open. Maybe it whispered a truth you were finally ready to hear. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, the obstacle is the way. What tried to destroy Evelyn became the very thing that shaped her strength. She didn't choose betrayal, heartbreak, or fear, but she chose what came after. She chose to stand up again. She chose love that was steady, safe, and real. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us. We cannot control who hurts us, but we can decide who we become after the hurt. We can choose healing, we can choose peace, we can choose a life that feels like home. If this story reached you, even just a little, I hope you'll like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next journey. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. You matter more than you know.